Good morning, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. It's been a couple days since I made a video, and I am going to make a video, even though every time I tell you I'm going to make a video, it's kind of, I get kind of anxious, I suppose, because it comes off so flawed, so imperfect, such a mess. But I want to keep making videos because I am a mess, I suppose. I should say today is March the 23rd, 2025. It is 9:27 in the morning here in Southwest Michigan. It is a Sunday, and as you all know, my wife goes to church on Sunday, so I'm here alone in the hermit hut. I haven't written in my diary yet this morning. I'm on page 277 this morning. I don't know, I haven't really gotten going. I got up around, I don't know, 7:30. My wife left for church. I watch every Sunday morning, I watch this guy who lives in the Italian Alps named Martin, and he is, I don't know, remodeling, rebuilding this stone cabins up in the Italian Alps, and I watch him every Sunday, you know, as he's working on his property, and so I watch that in the mornings. But it's time to get busy doing something, you know, reading. I try to read in the morning something Christian, and I'm still kind of not able to get into anything really. I don't know what it is. It's like, I think I mentioned, you know, I've read everything. I mean, what do I really need to know in order to live a holy life? Well, you know, I've been a Christian since 1970, and reading the Bible, and I thought, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, what do I need to know to get through this day, to get through the morning, and get through the afternoon, and get through the evening, get through the night. And even though life is very uncertain, we don't know what's going to happen even this week in the world or in our country, and we can't really just feel secure. I mean, everything is in a state of flux. Everything is in a state of political chaos, and there are wars raging in the Middle East, in Europe, and the threat of China against Taiwan, and all the unrest in Africa, and climate change, and so nothing is really certain. So you have to live each day just seeking God's grace to get through it. So what do I need to know? Well, I need to know if I go before God in humility and prayer, that He will give us the grace to get through this day. That's all there is. So, but when I have my online diary, Crooked Fingers, and I look at the archives, and it goes back to 2001, and so I click on what was I doing in March 2020, March 2004. And usually the first of the year, I tend to read St. John of the Cross, his collected works. I kind of do that around, well, I try to read through this at least once every year, or some treatise in here, like the Scent of Mount Carmel, or the Dark Night, or the Spiritual Canticle. I try to read one of these at least one time throughout the year. And I can't even get into that. I don't know. I did buy another volume of Bernard McQuinn's Volume 6, Part 2, Mysticism in the Golden Age of Spain, 1500 to 1650. The Presence of God, Volume 6, History of Western Christian Mysticism. I got one more volume to buy that I told you the 7th volume you cannot find, but there is Volume 6, Part 3 that I'm going to buy next. Sometime this year I'll get it. So I'm almost done with getting the whole series, The History of Western Christian Mysticism by Meam. But in the Mysticism in the Golden Age of Spain, 1500 1650, there is he covers the mysticism of Saint John of the Cross. So I thought about reading it. He also covers Teresa of Avila and other voices of Spanish mysticism. So I don't know. I might get into this, but like I said, I'm kind of out of it. I showed you this when I showed you the books in the Gospel of John. This is on John 17, Christ's prayer before his passion, expository sermons on John 17 by the Puritan Anthony Burgess. This is a re-edited. It's not an original, but I've been trying to read this last couple of days. We're still reading through the Gospel of John, my wife and I, in our morning devotions together. I was supposed to read John 17 this morning, but she had to go to church, so we ran out of time. So tomorrow morning, Lord willing, we'll read John 17 in the mornings, because we're going through the New Testament, we're going through the Gospels, we're in the Gospel of John, and we'll be in John 17. So I might get around to reading this. I don't know. I am kind of curious just to read this section on John of St. John of the Cross. Like I told you, over the years, I would start reading St. John of the Cross when I first became a Christian back in 1970. Around that time period, I showed you I have my old paperbacks that I bought at a small Catholic bookstore in San Pablo, California. And so I've told you the story about St. John of the Cross. I won't repeat that. I am reading Denis and the Carthusian on the Psalms. I'm on Psalm 103 in those commentaries. So that's about it. I thought I was going to mention, one thing I wanted to mention is what I've been reading outside of Christian literature, writing in my paper diary, my online diary, Crooked Fingers. This week I'm supposed to get in the mail, or from Amazon, I ordered the new Nell Zink novel, which I can't remember right now. I wrote it down, and then I forgot to bring it up. But anyway, Nell Zink's new novel comes out. And some of you might not know who Nell Zink is, but she's a writer. She lives outside of Berlin, Germany. She's an American. And I've been reading her for a number of years. She's not... I just read her... there's a picture of her in the back here. This is the novel she wrote, her last novel before the new one comes out, and it's called Avalon by Nell Zink. And I got this out yesterday because I wanted to read her latest one before the new one comes out. So I got it out, and I'm almost done with it. And it's very easy to read. She's not difficult to read. It's not experimental. It's just straight story. They're not really, heavy. This one here is, it says in the back here, Brands, what stands for Brandy. Brand's Southern California upbringing is anything but traditional. After her mother joins a Buddhist colony, Brand is raised by her common-law stepfather on Burdon Farms, a plant nursery that doubles as a cover for a biker gang. She spends her days tending plants, slogging through high school, and imagining what life could be if she had been born to a different family. And then she meets Peter, a charming train wreck of a college student who launches his teaching career by initiating her into the world of literature and aesthetics. As the two begins a volatile and doomed long-distance relationship, Brand searches for meaning in her own surroundings, attending disastrous dance recitals, house sittings for strangers, and writing scripts for student films. She knows how to survive, but her happiness depends on learning to call the shots. Exceedingly rich and ecstatically dark, Avalon is a potent portrait of a young woman who, against all odds, is determined to find her place in the world and find clarity in its remote corners. That's somewhat what it's about. But I started reading this yesterday, and I'm almost done with it. I'll probably finish it at least by tomorrow, so that I can start reading her newest one. These are her other novels. She first wrote The Wall Creeper by Neil Zink. This one came out, this was really kind of launched her career. She didn't start writing until around her 50s. This came out in 2015. The Wall Creeper. And then she wrote Mislaid by Neil Zink. I've read all of these. They're not hard to read. You could read them in a couple of days. But I've always kind of liked her. And then she came out with, I think the last one, then she wrote Private Novelists, which I can't remember if I read it. I think I read it. By Neil Zink. And then she wrote Nicotine by Neil Zink. And then she wrote Doxology, a novel after Mislaid. So yeah, I've read all these. I've talked about them over the years in my videos. I'm sure I have mentioned her. But yeah, I kind of like her writings, Neil Zink. She's kind of, I was telling my wife last night, why, I was trying to wonder why I like Neil Zink. She's not really heavy like reading, I've been reading in Victim, this massive 1,190. This is very hard to read, very laborious, takes a lot of concentration, doesn't have any plot, doesn't really have, it's just a massive word flow. But you read Neil Zink, it's like watching a very hipster kind of movie or story. And I told my wife that, I'm a Christian, but the kind of people I would like to hang around with if I was not a Christian would be the characters in Neil Zink's novels. they're intellectual, they're into art, they're into music, they're into literature, they're into ecology, they're into the world of avant-garde music, or kind of music that I listen to, but I don't really know anybody besides myself who listens to music. As you know, I kind of stopped listening to music because I have tinnitus in my ear, and I'm going deaf, and I can't take noise anymore. I used to listen to a lot of heavy metal, death metal, and real loud music. I can't take any kind of noise anymore. I have to live in, I don't even turn the radio on anymore. We have a radio over there and I can't listen to a radio. No. I do listen to CDs when I'm driving around in my car, but on low frequency. I can't take it. I do once in a while buy CDs. I bought the new Jason Isbell CD, and I do listen to Swans once in a while. But the kind of people I like to hang around with, if I wasn't a Bible-believing Christian, would be the people in like Avalon, Neil Zink, or Private Novelist Fiction by Neil Zink, or The Wallkeeper by Neil Zink, and Mislaid. Mislaid, I think, was my favorite of Neil Zink's, and I've talked about these over the years, but it's one I really enjoyed. And I like Nicotine, and I liked all of them, but I'm sure that Neil Zink is an acquired taste. But like I said, I like the people, I like the characters, I like what they talk about. I like, she talks about things that I'm interested in. And it's like intellectualism from a very secular, worldly kind of way, you know. Now, I like being around Christians, even though I'm not a member of any church. I don't have any Christian community I'm involved with. But when I was in the Christian communities, I always found them very anti-intellectual. I mean, I rarely met anybody, you know, I've been a Christian 54 years. I went to church for 35 years. And I never met any Christians. I met very few Christians that were open-minded, that were tolerant of perspectives outside their own little theological and spiritual traditions. I tend to be very open-minded when it comes to certain things that certain Christians would slam the door on. But I don't know any Christians that I could sit down and talk about St. John of the Cross and Spanish mysticism. I don't know anybody. Here in Holland, Michigan, I don't know anybody. I've never met anybody. I don't know anybody who who would sit down and have an intelligent, in-depth discussion on Anthony Burgess and his sermons on John 17. I don't know. Or anybody, you know, one of my books that I read last year and that I keep thinking about is The History of Bombing by even Lindqvist. This is the kind of thing I like to have a buddy read with. Now, I don't like buddy reads, to tell you the truth. But I don't know anybody who's read this, The History of Bombing. These are the kind of people I would like to hang around with. Oh yeah, I've read this. And then they would share their different parts about it. I just don't know anybody. So I don't know anybody who reads Neil Zink, but I really look forward to getting her new novel this week. I think it comes Wednesday or Tuesday. I did get another thing in the mail yesterday. I ordered this, and it's called the Europeana, A Brief History of the 20th Century. And I can't, it's a Czech name. He's a Czech writer. Gerard Turner translated this little thing. It's only 108 pages. It's a long epic poem where he gives a brief history of the 20th century. Europeana. Yeah, this is the kind of thing I like to have somebody here in Holland who's reading this, and we could go downtown or sit around here on the table here with coffee and talk about this book. I don't know anybody. This is put out by Dalkai Archive Press. Yeah. It says here, Europeana, A Brief History of the 20th Century, opens on the beaches of Normandy in 1944, comparing the heights of different forces, soldiers considering how tall, long, or good at fertilizing fields the men's bodies will be, probing the depths of humanity and inhumanity. This is an account of history as it has never been told. Quote, engaging and even frightening, end of quote, at once recreating and uncreating the 20th century. This Czech writer explores the connections across the decades between desperate figures, events, and politics we thought we knew. So yeah, I've been reading this. Just got it in the mail. Yeah, I have been reading Invictum by Michael Bronsky. I've read 433 pages, still reading it. And I've been reading Ingenious Gentleman and Poet Frederick Garcia Lorca Ascends to Hell by Carlos Burgess. I'm almost halfway through this. And I've been reading Asteria by Carlos Francisco, translated by Megan McDowell. I have been reading this. So I read these at night before I go to bed. And I've been reading a lot of nonfiction, but I didn't bring it over here. And I have tons of thrift store books. I've got, and I know I gotta make a video. I've got at least 30, maybe more used, at least maybe 40 thrift store books I've got in the last couple of weeks. So there's always videos, but like I said, when I make a video, it just comes out kind of sloppy, kind of haphazard. It's like I'm throwing mud into a fan and splattering myself. It's just, but I wanted to break the silence. I wanted to tell you about Nell Zink. Like I said, I'm getting her new novel in the mail this week. So I got out Avalon and started reading it yesterday, and I'm almost done with it. And I keep the history of bombing. These two things should be read together. These two should be read together. Read both these together. And like I was telling my wife last night, in Sunday school classes they have apologetics, where you seek to give a defense for the Christian faith. And I said they should use this. They should use both these books in an adult Sunday school class, and people would each have these books. And okay, let's give a Christian response to the history of bombing. Give a Christian apologetics for Europeana. I mean, how are we to, as Christians, critique these books or give a book review or share our reflections. Sometimes I think Christians kind of, they retreat into some kind of spiritual realm that's divorced from what is going on in the real world, and it kind of gets me kind of, I don't know, just freaks me out. Yeah, I don't know why. I always read St. John the Cross, and I should read him. I try to read him at least once a year. But now that I have Bernard McQuinn's his chapter on St. John the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila, I should maybe I'll get into it. So yeah, so the day goes by. Today is a Sunday. It's 9:52 in the morning. We're coming to the end of the month. We're going into April. It's cold today. It's supposed to rain. It's gloomy out. And yeah, life just keeps going by. So I don't really have anything else. I got Nell Zink's new novel coming, and reading on well, I'm not reading, but I like to get into St. John the Cross and mysticism in the golden age of Spain, and Puritan theology on John 17, and history of bombing, and reading Avalon, and plowing through Invictium. So it's going on 27 minutes. Hope you're all doing well. You had a good reading weekend. Hope you have a good new week. And yeah, like I said, I'm just hanging in there, looking to the Lord for grace to keep persevering, keep running the race, not trying to freak out, keep my eyes on the prize, just keep going. So thank you for the comments, and do pray you're all doing well. Thank you for the new subscribers. And yeah, I'll get around to making a video about all those used books. They're just stacking up. So yeah. So I will close. Until next time, bye.